So this report was known as the Bloun Report, found that the overthrow of the monarchy in Hawaii was totally illegal, and it was an act of war by an American without the approval of Congress. So at first it looked like things were going to work out for the people of Hawaii, and the president immediately ordered Sanford Dole to dissolve his fake government and reinstate the Queen's monarchy. Hooray! But there was one condition. The Queen was not allowed to punish Sanford and the occupiers for their crazy-ass takeover. And as you can imagine, the Queen did not agree to this, and Sanford refused to give up power, of course. So now the United States Senate launched its own investigation. This is exhausting. This is where shit starts to get weird. You see, the Senate investigation, known as the Morgan Report, concluded the opposite of the committee's report and decided that Sanford's actions were totally legal. And this led to a gridlock in the government, and nobody really did anything with Hawaii for a few years until a new president came into town, William McKinley. Yeah. This new president, I should say, was very eager to expand the United States. So he went in super hard and was like, we need to get Hawaii ASAP. And Sanford was super excited because this new president was going to support what Sanford did in the first place, getting Hawaii part of the United States. Sanford traveled all the way to Washington, D.C. to seal Hawaii's fate. And it worked because in 1898, Congress approved the process that led to Hawaii officially becoming a U.S. territory. Bonus, Sanford got to be governor of it. Jesus Christ. In the end, the United States got Hawaii. Now that the United States had successfully stolen the land, business exploded in Hawaii. This is where Sanford's cousin, James Dole, the pineapple guy, comes into the picture. Even though pineapples aren't even native to Hawaii, James figured out pineapples grew very easily in the tropical environment, and he thought pineapple plantations would make him a lot of money. And boy, was he right. He made a ton of cash off of his pineapple business and at one point took over the entire island of Oahu just for pineapples. When people associate pineapples with Hawaii, James Dole is the reason why. So for a while, the entire state of Hawaii was just pineapple, coffee, sugar plantations, and the owners of these plantations were completely running the place. Native Hawaiians couldn't live off of the land anymore because the land was totally exploited by these businesses, and all other local industries were put out of business too. So Native Hawaiians were forced to get jobs on these plantations in order to survive. In addition to its super fertile land, Hawaii also had a really strategic military placement. So this was just another reason that the United States really pushed to take Hawaii. And they made it official in 1908. The United States established a naval station on the island of Oahu. It became known as Pearl Harbor. This base became super important to the United States military presence in the Pacific Ocean, and it made it easier for battleships and warplanes to reach Asia. I bring this up because I've talked about the Pearl Harbor attacks in 1941 on this show before, but something I haven't talked about is how Hawaii was not even a state when that happened. Yeah, Hawaii became a state in 1959. And that wasn't even that long ago, it seems like, right? It's almost 18 years after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Some confusing shit, you know what I'm saying? So clearly, the history of Hawaii and how the United States took it is very complicated, shady, pretty frustrating. The United States stole the land since they never actually agreed to give it up. And the biggest thing to remember here is that in order for an occupier to legally obtain new land, both parties need to sign a treaty recognizing that the land is being handed over. Well, there's no formal treaty between the United States and the Kingdom of Hawaii. It doesn't exist. The Kingdom of Hawaii never gave their nation to the occupiers. But the United States didn't care. They took it how they wanted to. So obviously, Native Hawaiians have been protesting Hawaii's title of statehood ever since. Because technically, if we look at international laws, occupation of land without a legally binding treaty is considered a war crime. Point blank period. Backspace, Control-Alt-Delete. The United States government finally acknowledged the hostile takeover of Hawaii with the Bloun Report, as well as the Apology Resolution of 1993. President Bill Clinton finally apologized on behalf of the United States. But like, what does that do? I don't know. But since Hawaii's occupation by the United States began over 100 years ago, there has been an active effort in Hawaii to restore the government of Hawaiian Kingdom through something called a regency. A regency is what you get when the king or queen of a monarchy is unable to rule because they're dead or sick. And right now, Hawaii doesn't have a monarch, so they have a regent. So you're probably thinking, why don't they just bring Queen L's descendants to the throne? Well, you see, the queen had 3 children, but they were all adopted. And for any of them to take the throne, the queen would have had to directly name one of them as a successor in her will. Under the conditions of the old 1864 Hawaiian Constitution, if the king or queen dies and does not leave a final will and testament, the head of the government shall remain vacant. And since the queen never technically left her throne, this means the monarchy exists without a queen. Therefore, Hawaii is still a monarchy and has been since 1893. Plot twist. But don't take it from me. Let me tell you a story about a Hawaiian citizen named Lance Larson. In 1999, Lance was arrested for driving without a license plate, which is illegal under United States law. After he was arrested, Lance claimed that jurisdiction over him was only held by the Hawaiian Kingdom. You see, he made the claim that the United States had illegally occupied Hawaii. Therefore, he should only be tried under the laws of the kingdom, not the United States. Now, this created a very complicated situation. The international community actually stopped for a second and said, hey, wait a minute, is Hawaii occupied illegally? And nobody could really agree. This case ended up being so controversial that it went all the way to The Hague. Now, The Hague, oh my God, wait, I've been there. The Hague is located in the Netherlands, and it's where international legal cases are tried in a court of law. Basically, if an entire country is committing a crime, this is where you go. You go there. So why am I telling you about The Hague? Well, Mr. Larson's issue was no longer about license plates. It was about the very nature of Hawaii's existence as a state. Is Hawaii part of the United States and their government, or an independent state with their own monarchy? In order for The Hague to rule on whether the United States illegally obtained Hawaii, the United States had to be part of the original case. But guess what? The United States refused to participate. In fact, there isn't even any evidence that they protested when The Hague declared Hawaii an independent state. The Hague sided with Lance. The Hague stated that Hawaii is, and always has been, illegally occupied. Since there is no treaty, the occupation and any transfer of power as a result is illegal. Hawaii should be its own independent state with its own government and its own set of laws. But since the United States refused to acknowledge The Hague or the Larson case, nothing's changed. So even though the international community has acknowledged that Hawaii is its own nation state, the United States government is straight up ignoring that. And since the USA is a massive superpower, there really is no one who can enforce international rulings against them. Now you may be wondering, well, why is no one talking about this? Well, they are. The Hawaiian Sovereignty Movement is a grassroots organization campaigning for a return to Hawaiian independence. And from what we've learned today, they have an interesting case. They have a fair case. They have a pretty solid case.